Okay.
Today I'm showing you how you can turn this into this. So if you've been following my channel for the past year or so, you've noticed that I talked about chords and chord progressions a lot. Diminished chords, secondary dominant, slash chords, spicy chord, augmented chords. I love it. And this might sound weird coming from a guitar player, but I might like playing chords more than anything on the guitar. Anyway, here's a song that is just so beautiful and so interesting, where almost all the things we've talked about just beautifully come together in this wonderful chord progression from the song 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. In this video I'm taking you through 4 levels, gradually expanding to what eventually made it on the record. A beautiful and rich dissonant sound that makes everyone go wild. And at the end there's even step 5 or level 5, going just one step further because we can. Anyway, let's go to level 1. So the first level is something we called the Andalucian cadence. And if you've been following my Learn, Practice, Play course, you should already know this. But in the key of E minor, that gives us the following chords: E minor, D, C, and B. And on itself, it is a very lovely chord progression with a very strong resolution at the end, that B to E minor. And I guess this sounds familiar to most of you. Just try to name a few songs that use this chord progression. I'm sure you can name a few. Anyway, in the verses we repeat this 3 times and then end on E minor, A minor, and E minor again. And together with drums, bass, and vocals, it sounds like this.
Problem is all inside your head, she said to me. The answer is easy if you take it logically. I'd love to help you in your struggle to be free. There must be 50 ways to leave your lover.
Awesome, so this may very well be how Paul started out writing this song, but it wasn't good enough for Paul. So let's try adding some new elements to level 2. So although this chord progression has a strong sense of direction, the chords themselves are very basic as can get really, a triad. So let's try to make them sound more rich, and the easiest thing to do is to turn the basic triads into 7th chords. So instead of each chord having 3 unique notes, we now have 4 unique notes. A place this always works like a charm is on the 5 chord. And we turn that into a 7th chord, a dominant 7th. So we turn the B chord, that's the 5 chord in this case, just walk up the E minor scale, E, F sharp, G, A, and B. So now the B is the 5 chord, and we turn the B into a B dominant 7th. Also called a B 7th. That gives us E minor, D, C, and B 7th. But that's not the only thing we can do. We can also turn the C chord into a C major 7th chord. Gorgeous. What can we do with the D chord? So we've got the D. We follow the diatonic chords, we can turn it into a D 7th. But in this progression that sounds a bit weird since the D doesn't resolve to anything. So a thing we can do is to try to add the 6 instead of the minor 7th, creating a D6 chord. Why not? So now we've got E minor, D6, C major 7th, and B 7th. Kind of sweet, right? So now we need to do one more thing though, because on that E minor chord, we could turn it into an E minor 7th. But we can also try something else. Let's try to use an inversion, and I made a video about that too, you can check it out over here, slash chords. So we play a first inversion on G. That's what happens when you put the 3rd into the bass. In this case, it's the minor 3rd, the G. So let's play it as a bass note, the low G on that low string. E minor over G, beautiful chord. especially beautiful when the bass also plays that note. So let's see how it sounds in full context. Here's level 2.
The problem is all inside your head, she said to me. The answer is easy if you take it logically. I'd like to help you with your struggle to be free. There must be 50 ways to leave you alone.
Okay, it's getting more and more interesting. Awesome. But there's a thing that's bugging me. These 4 chords, over and over, it starts to get boring real quick. So an easy trick is to change the second time round a bit, so the tension arc becomes bigger. So here's level 3. So on the second time round, we turn the E minor over G into a regular E minor chord. And after that, the bass descends chromatically down to D sharp. And the beautiful thing to do is to play a D sharp diminished after the E. Yes, that's gorgeous. And why does it work? Well, for 2 reasons really. The D sharp diminished is basically just a D7th, but now with a D sharp as bass note. But also, this is really a B7th chord, but then with one added note, the flat 9. So the B7th works perfectly, so the D sharp diminished works perfectly too. And for now, just remember that B7 flat 9, and we get back to that later. So move on. Everyone that saw my spicy chord video will know that there's a cool thing we can do with diminished chords. We can slide them up 3 frets and then we still play exactly the same notes. So here's D sharp diminished. Now I move it up 3 semitones to F sharp diminished. And it's exactly the same notes. But if the bass plays the same thing, we call it D sharp diminished and F sharp diminished. And now we've got something super, super interesting, because in the key of E minor, the F sharp is the 2, E, F sharp. Did you ever hear about a 2-5-1 turnaround or a 2-5-1 progression? That happens a lot in jazz music, but also in other genres. It's very common and it sounds awesome. So that F sharp is the 2 and you play it as a diminished chord, or like this. And then we go to the 5, which is the B7th, and then to the 1. And that sounds just so perfect. A 2-5-1 in E minor. So usually the 2 is played as a minor 7th flat 5 or half diminished. But in this case we play just a regular diminished. It's just a matter of changing one note. So awesome how all these beautiful pieces fall together beautifully in this progression. So let's have a listen how level 3 sounds with a full band.
The problem is all inside your head, she said to me. The answer is easy if you take it logically. I'd like to help you with your struggle to be free. There must be 50 ways to leave you alone.
That sounds beautiful. Are you expecting a but? You better, because for Paul this wasn't good enough. So these B7th chords resolving to E minor, it sounds great, but I mean, maybe a bit cheesy to have it all the time. So let's spice them up a bit. So if you've been paying attention, I said in the previous level to remember that B7 flat 9, right? Okay, we're gonna insert that over here. So the B7th chord is played like this. We just add the flat 9 extension to the chord, and the flat 9 is just the same as the octave, B, B, and we raise it by 1 semitone to C. That's the flat 9 interval of B. And if you play them together it sounds dreadful, but in the chord B7th flat 9, beautiful, and that resolves awesome to E minor. Even stronger than the B7th resolution, because that flat 9 wants to resolve to that B as well. Ooh, that is just the best. And indeed, the B7th flat 9 is really the same chord as D sharp diminished. It's just the way you look at it, and you know, depending in the context of the song and what the bass plays. There's one thing I want to say, that all chords can have multiple names, that it isn't always exact science. It's always an interpretation of you and me and of the writer. So now we've got, and that sounds just gorgeous. So the second time around we play a different chord on that B. We don't play a B7th, but we play an augmented chord. And I talked about that too in the spicy chord video. It's the same as how the Beatles use it in their song Hey Darling. Like from a 5 to a 1. So on the B we played it augmented right now. And I like this voicing. It's basically a B in the G shape like this. Just your index finger on fret 4. But now we add that sharp 5 over here. And that just makes a lot of sense in this context. So now we've got beautiful, right? And there we have it, full circle. So now let's play level 1 followed by level 4 and see how much effect all the changes have on the sound. Let's roll.
Problem is all inside your head, she said to me. The answer is easy if you take it logically. I'd like to help you in your struggle to be free. There must be 50 ways to leave love. Problem is all inside your head, she said to me. To help you in your struggle to be free, there must be 50 ways to leave love.
So that's loosely what ended up on the record, but as I promised, here's the bonus level, level 5. So now we play a cool fingerpicking pattern. On each chord we insert an alternating bass pattern, just beautifully walking through the changes. Let's break it down real quick. So I started on the E minor over G, alternating bass pattern between G and B, then to D6, from the D bass note to the A bass note, to C major 7th, alternating bass to E, and then to the B 7th flat 9, and then to B over F sharp, because I'm lowering that flat 9 already to the B. E minor over B, D sharp diminished, and now D sharp diminished over A, or A diminished, because it's exactly the same thing. It's that flat 5 in the bass. And now F sharp diminished, and C diminished, or F sharp diminished, because the F sharp stays in the bass. Anyway, potato, potato. C sharp, F sharp diminished, C diminished, and then B augmented to D sharp augmented. And this is a funny thing, because for diminished goes, when you slide it up 3 frets, the chord stays the same, but for augmented we've got the same thing, but now it's 4 semitones. So B augmented, B augmented, B augmented, B augmented. Depends on what the bass is doing if you call it a different chord, because if the bass stays at B, it's all B augmented. But if the bass changes to B augmented, D sharp augmented, and then back to E minor, A minor 7th, gorgeous. How wonderful is this progression?
Problem is all inside your head, she said to me. The answer is easy if you take it logically.
about it and seeing it out there just makes you appreciate it so much more. It's just, you know why it's interesting. So if you're interested in learning some more, please do consider checking out my guitar course, Learn, Practice, Play, my beginner guitar course, or my intermediate guitar course, Next Level Playing. They do talk about progressions, chords, theory, and of course also scales, pentatonic, major, minor, all the stuff. Lots of solos, and it's packed with loads and loads of great lessons to become the best guitarist you can be. Anyway, listen to the song as well, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. It's beautiful. Do not leave your lover, but I hope to see you next week, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. Goodbye.